Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Saturday, April 5th, 2025. Now if you like this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. Put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my daily rundown best bet, which is my favorite play on the board each day in Major League Baseball, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alright, here we go. Here are the games for Saturday in Major League Baseball. First up, the Chicago White Sox taking on the Detroit Tigers. Davis Martin and Reese Olson are your starters. I think this is a tough game because I do think both starting pitching options are solid. Davis Martin pitched pretty well in his season debut, and while Reese Olson struggled, he also faced the Los Angeles Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. I think he bounces back against one of the weakest lineups in baseball here. So I think I would lean towards the under, and I think the Tigers do find a way to win this game. Maybe take the run line and get a better price because we see the money line is pretty much out of range, in the 200 range. But I think the Tigers find a way to win, cover the run line. I'd lean towards that and the under. Next up, the Houston Astros taking on the Minnesota Twins. We've got Spencer Arrighetti and Bailey Ober on the mound. We know Bailey Ober struggled quite a bit in his season debut, and one bad start's not enough for me to write off somebody for their 2025 campaign. However, it was a concern that he walked 3 batters in that game against St. Louis. I mean, Ober's made a career of limiting free passes. He does a great job at limiting walks, and his walks per 9 throughout his career has been very, very low. So to see him struggling with that control and giving up some sharp contact, a couple of home runs in that game, that's been something we've seen at times from Ober. He really, I've mentioned, last year, in the last couple of years, he's somebody that throws so many strikes that sometimes his pitches hang right down the heart of the zone, and opposing teams are able to, to make sharp contact, get extra base hits and home runs. So at times it's Ober's struggles, but if he's also struggling with that control and putting guys on via the free pass, it's really tough to trust him. So I think Ober figures it out at some point, but right now I just can't back him, especially when you add the fact that the Twins offense has been so inconsistent, and you're facing Spencer Arrighetti, who pitched well in his season debut, and I think it's a good option in this Astros rotation. So I'm going to go with the Houston Astros in this one on the money line. Next up, we have the San Diego Padres taking on the Chicago Cubs. Nick Pivetta and Matthew Boyd are your starters. Now, for any outdoor stadium in Major League Baseball, the weather is going to impact the total quite a bit, but nothing like Wrigley Field. I mean, this is a stadium that oftentimes sportsbooks wait until the morning of to get a more accurate weather reading to list a total. You'll see, total TBD for Chicago Cubs games when they're playing at home, especially in the afternoon where, the wind, if it's blowing out or if it's blowing in, you'll see a steep total or a super low total. It doesn't matter who's on the mound, really. You can see great starting pitchers in a game where the wind's blowing out 15, 20 miles per hour, and it's going to be a steep total. So for me, I looked at the weather, a little bit ahead for this weekend. Looks like it's going to be pretty good pitching weather, at least for Saturday. You definitely want to check up on that, though, in the morning and, a couple hours before the game, because it really dictates where the total is going to be. I like both of these starting pitchers. Both were excellent in their season debuts. For me, I think this is going to be a low-scoring contest. I'm going to go with the under in San Diego, Chicago. Next up, the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Washington Nationals. We're going to see Eduardo Rodriguez and Mitchell Parker on the mound. I think Mitchell Parker pitched really well in his season debut, 6 1/3 innings, a shutout ball, but he also gave up 7 base hits and a couple of walks. There were a lot of base runners. He had to get out of some jams. I think the Diamondbacks are a tough matchup for really any lefty right now. They do such a good job at limiting strikeouts, getting on base via the walk. They have, pretty good numbers overall against lefties, and they're hitting the ball very hard. I think Parker could be in trouble here, and I think Rodriguez bounces back a little bit for Washington after a not-so-great season debut. He's got good numbers, though, in limited work against the current Nationals hitters. This is a young Nationals lineup, so not a lot of pitchers have a very large sample size against the Nationals' current roster, but in 36 plate appearances, a pretty steep strikeout rate, decent walk rate, and a low xWOBA. I'm going to go with the Diamondbacks in this one because even if they're trailing in the middle innings, I think they have the big-time bullpen advantage, so give me Arizona on the money line. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the Philadelphia Phillies. Roki Sasaki and Aaron Nola are your starters. Sasaki, I mentioned, I think he's going to be fine this season, but I do think it's going to take him a while to find his control. And we've seen early on he's really struggled with the walks. 9 walks given up in 4 2/3 innings. That's not going to get it done. Now, the Dodgers are actually able to win both of those games against the Cubs and the Tigers, but now you're on the road in Philadelphia, and you're playing, as a starting pitcher in Sasaki. We saw him get a little emotional in that last game in the dugout after a not-so-great start against Detroit. And now you're playing in Philadelphia, in Citizens Bank Park, which is going to be a packed crowd, one of the toughest places to play, and fans that certainly don't have too much, they don't have a lot of sympathy for the opposing team. I think Sasaki could be in trouble in this game. When you got Aaron Nola on the other side, yes, he struggled in his season debut, but he's got great numbers against his current Dodgers lineup. He's pitched well at home in his career. I think it's a lopsided matchup on the mound. I'm going to go with the Phillies in this one on the money line. Next up, the New York Yankees taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. We got Marcus Stroman and Bailey Falter on the mound. I think we're going to see some runs in this one. I like the over. Marcus Stroman, we know he wasn't his best in his season debut. Only went 4 2/3, giving up 5 hits, a walk, a homer, 3 runs in that game. It was enough, though, because the Yankees won 12-3. And that leads me to my next point. The Yankees offense has just crushed the opposition to start the year, and especially left-handed pitching. It's a small sample size because you don't really face too many lefty starters, on a daily basis, but in right around 90 plate appearances so far, an extremely high OPS and isolated power for the Yankees against lefties. A 471 ISO is crazy. Very low strikeout rate, a steep walk rate to go with it. WRC plus at 242. They're just smoking lefties, and Falter I think is a decent option season long, long term for the Pirates. But I wouldn't want to back any lefty right now against the Yankees, so I got to go with the over in Yankees Pirates. Next up, the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Boston Red Sox. Andre Pallante and Richard Fitz are your starters. Now, I like St. Louis early in this game. I could see the Red Sox finding a way to win it in the end. I think they have the bullpen advantage in this one. So I wouldn't want to take St. Louis full game. I would take the Cardinals money line or plus a half a run in the first 5 because Pallante, while he may not be my favorite starting pitching option to back because he doesn't really miss a lot of bats, he does a good job of keeping the ball on the ground, and that's important at Fenway Park. Very hitter-friendly ballpark. I think he pitches well like he did against the Twins in his season debut. I think the Cardinals can find a run or two against Fitz early on, and I think it's going to be enough for the Cardinals to take the lead by the end of the 5th inning. Like I said, I think it's going to be a competitive game in the end, and the Red Sox could find a way to win it in the end, but give me St. Louis in the first 5. Next up, the Baltimore Orioles taking on the Kansas City Royals. Tomoyuki Sugano and Michael Wacha are your starters. Wacha faced the Orioles once last year at the very beginning of the season. He struggled, and the Orioles did win that game. And overall in his career against the current Orioles lineup, Wacha does not have the best numbers in about 100 plate appearances. The strikeout rate's not too shabby. The walk rate's low, but a 559 expected slugging percentage and a 383 xWOBA are very, very steep. And now with Gunnar Henderson back in the lineup, I just don't love this matchup for Wacha at home, and I don't think his offense is going to get him enough run support to win this game. I think Sugano's a decent option for the O's in their rotation. He pitched pretty well in his season debut, his major league debut. I would like to see him miss some more bats, but I think he's going to be able to going forward, and I like the fact that he was able to limit the sharp contact, no home runs given up in those 4 innings. I'm going to go with the O's in this one on the money line on the road. Next up, the Tampa Bay Rays taking on the Texas Rangers. Taj Bradley and Jacob deGrom are your starters. This is a situation where I just think the Rangers are overpriced. I said the same thing for their first matchup with deGrom against the Red Sox, and you know what? That was a Rangers win 3-2, but it was a very close game. Not a game that you would want to be laying minus 160, minus 170 like you were in that first matchup. So for me, I think with Taj Bradley on the other side, a capable starting pitcher that can keep this game competitive, keep it very, very close, and give the Rays a chance to win it outright in the end, I think the price is right with Tampa Bay in this one. I expect deGrom to pitch well in this game and going forward, but he's also coming off some big injuries. I don't expect him to go too deep into this ball game like he did in that first matchup. I think the value lies with the Rays in this game. Give me Tampa Bay on the money line and run line. Next up, the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the New York Mets, where we see Chris Bassett and Griffin Canning on the mound. Bassett facing his former team. He's actually pitched pretty well against these Mets the last couple of years. He faced them once in 2024. That was a quality start, 6 innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts. In 2023, he went 7 2/3, a shutout ball, 8 strikeouts against the Mets at Citi Field. And while he has some struggles against guys like Francisco Lindor throughout his career, I still think he puts together a good outing here, hands it over to an improved Blue Jays bullpen. On the other side, Griffin Canning, we mentioned he pitched pretty well in spring training, had a good outing in his season debut. I think he puts together a decent campaign, probably a low 4s ERA by the end of the year if he can stay healthy. I think he's going to be good enough to keep this game low scoring, hand it over to another great bullpen for the New York Mets. So give me the under here in Blue Jays Mets. Next up, we have the Cincinnati Reds taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Brady Singer and Elvin Rodriguez are your projected starters. I'm going to lean towards the under, but I do think the Reds take this game. And, the Reds offense we know has struggled in the last few days, but Brady Singer pitched really well in his season debut. I mean, 7 innings, 8 strikeouts, no earned runs. Granted, he did have a 6-0 lead by the end of the second inning, so a lot of run support. We know it's a lot easier for pitchers to pitch when they have a big-time lead, but nonetheless, very impressive outing. I think Rodriguez will be a good option for the Brewers out of their bullpen eventually. Right now, because of all those injuries in the rotation and the bullpen, they're kind of forced to make Rodriguez the 5th starter or opener. He went 4 innings in that first game. He did struggle a bit. I think he'll be a little bit better here, but in the end, I expect the Reds to win it. I'll lean towards Cincinnati on the money line, lean towards the under, but not my favorite game on the board. Next up, the Miami Marlins taking on the Atlanta Braves. We've got A.J. Smith-Shawver and Cal Quantrill on the mound. Quantrill was pitching well against the Mets until he wasn't. He went 4 innings of 1-run ball and then gave up a ton of runs in the top of the 5th. The Mets ended up winning that game in a blowout 10-4. I think Quantrill will be better going forward, but even if he does bounce back in this start, I don't think it's going to be enough for the Marlins to compete. I still think that Smith-Shawver is a great option for the Braves in their rotation. They've got a great bullpen behind them. The top of the order for the Braves is still filled with all-stars, so yes, the bottom half is struggling and not great on paper, but I think the Braves will do enough against Quantrill and add a few runs against the Marlins bullpen to find a way to win this game and cover the run line. I'm going to lead towards Atlanta. I don't love this one because I just don't love the price, but I'll take the Braves on the run line. Next up, we have the Rockies and the A's. J.P. Sears and German Marquez are your starters. We know that Coors Field is going to produce some big-time, high-scoring games this season, but I actually like the under in this one, and I think this weekend series is going to be more beneficial to pitchers than most series at Coors Field this year, if not all series, because it's very cold. The wind does look like it's going to be blowing in from center field, and you've got a Rockies team that's striking out left and right against a starter in J.P. Sears that has one career start at Coors Field, but it was an excellent outing. 5 innings, I think 1-run ball. He was able to get the win in that game. And Marquez, we know plenty of experience at Coors Field in his career. He's pitched pretty well there over the years. No starting pitcher is going to have dominant numbers at Coors, but Marquez has put together a solid career. He pitched well in his season debut against a tough Phillies lineup. I think he's going to be good enough to keep this game under the total. Give me the under in A's Rockies. Next up, we have the Seattle Mariners and the San Francisco Giants. We got Robbie Ray and Bryce Miller on the mound. Robbie Ray was pitching really well in his season debut, but couldn't get through that 6th inning, and that's why you look at his final line, 5 1/3, 3 runs, not great, but he was pitching really well in the first 5 innings. The Giants were able to get him enough run support for San Francisco to win that game. I think that's going to be the case in this one as well. I still struggle to get there with this Mariners lineup. They strike out a ton right now against lefties. For a strikeout-dependent starter like Robbie Ray, that is, pretty good matchup there. Bodes pretty well for Robbie Ray. And, Bryce Miller wasn't his best in his season debut. When you're a starter, in this Mariners rotation, you've got to be lights out because you're not going to get that type of run support like you would with other teams. And, Miller in that first game gave up a home run, gave up a couple of walks. I just think that the Giants find enough here early to win this game in a low-scoring affair. Give me the Giants on the money line. Next up, we have the Cleveland Guardians taking on the Los Angeles Angels. Tanner Bivey and Jack Kohanowitz are your starters. I do think the Guardians win this game, but I also think it's worth a look for a pitcher prop on this one. Jack Kohanowitz under his strikeout prop. Last year in 2024, Kohanowitz was in the bottom 1st percentile in whiff percentage and K percentage, and below league average in chase rate to go with it. And we know the Guardians already do a great job at limiting strikeouts as a team, as a lineup. Over the last 5 years or so, some of the lowest strikeout rates in all of baseball. I think that'll be the case yet again this season with guys like Jose Ramirez and Stephen Kwan still in the lineup. So I would look towards that. Look at the under strikeout prop for Jack Kohanowitz and the Guardians on the money line because I do think Bivey pitches well. The Guardians have a big-time bullpen advantage. Give me Cleveland and that pitcher prop. And that's it. Those are the games for Saturday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium, and there is a link in the description. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.